Greetings, cheese lovers. Welcome to our very first Sunday sessions. I'm Gina, and we're going to start Sunday sessions with a little song every week. And this is a song that's appropriate for the topic today. Hope you like it. Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle, and this'll help things turn out for the best. Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. That's our ditty for today.
Beautiful.
Hope you enjoyed that little arrangement. Rob,
I sure did.
For the first time. So come on back, you guys. Like I said, Sunday sessions. We're just going to talk about cheese. We've been talking about cheese for 16 years now, and now we're going to share all of our wealth of knowledge with you. Hopefully have a discussion on topics that talk about cheese. Also topics that talk about good news. As you can tell from the song, we are only going to talk about the bright side of life in these things. So won't you join us? Come on in to our Venissimo Cheese Studios. I'm going to take over and introduce you to partner in crime. Partner in crime? Is it a crime?
It's a crime to be this delicious.
It's a crime to be this delicious. You got that right.
Oh boy.
Right. There you go, RobbyG. Welcome everybody.
Welcome.
Can we tell them, before you tell them, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
So, if you all have a YouTube channel subscription, or if you just are signed into YouTube, we can do chat. So I'm set on live chat, and I'm here to help answer questions, and hopefully make this kind of a discussion. But we're going to share our knowledge of the healthy aspects of cheese.
That's
right?
correct,
All
yes.
right. Rob, and who are you? Tell everyone.
Well, my name is RobbyG, Rob Graff, the professor of cheese. I'm the Academy of Cheese manager, and I've been with Venissimo for a while.
A while. Why are you sticking around?
Just a couple of
You
years.
Just love cheese.
I like cheese. I like talking about cheese, and it's a fun job. I can't complain.
Okay, good. Yay.
You know, I got to say, I have no complaints at all. So welcome to our first Sunday sessions.
Yeah.
And this is going to be kind of conversational. We're going to just kind of chat. Of course, we're going to walk you through the cheese plate. If you have a cheese plate, there's 4 cheeses, and we picked the cheeses we picked for a reason, because we're also going to be talking about health,
Yes.
both literal physical health and mental health.
Exactly.
And how it relates to cheese, and so we'll go ahead and get started.
Start there. We'll start with a cheers. You always start with a cheer and a salute, everyone out there.
Cheers,
the healthy
everybody.
aspects of cheese.
Yes.
Rob. Well, of course, I'm biased, but I find it to be quite healthy.
I have so many. I had to really
Condense, right?
Yeah,
All the facts.
I always have hundreds and hundreds of pages of notes and ideas and thoughts, and so I figured I would just talk about the things, just a couple of things, just pick a couple of things to talk about when it comes to cheese. And so cheese is one of the reasons why cheese became so popular just with human beings. I mean, we're going to go way back. We're going to go back thousands of years.
Okay.
Is because it is such a great source of food and a healthful source of food. There's a term called it's energy dense, meaning you get a lot of calories per ounce or per gram, however you want to quantify it.
And calories aren't bad.
Calories are energy, okay?
Exactly. Calories aren't bad. This is one of the good things that I learned, and I love this saying, is that you don't get fat by eating fat. And we know that cheese has fat, right?
Yeah, we need fat.
Exactly.
So yes, there is fat, but it is good fat. There's lots of good stuff in cheese. But of course, like anything, you do have to moderate, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But going back, let's go back 9,000 years or so. It's going to be a long discussion tonight.
Okay.
Just kidding.
We only have about an hour.
But so milk was, of course, it's highly perishable, and when you have a lot of milk from many animals, and this happened all over the world around the same time, but a lot of it the credit for the first cheeses being made goes to Mesopotamia, which is in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they used to use the stomachs of the animals for
Don't
various
be frightened
things.
by
Yeah.
that.
We don't have to go too much into that, but the animal stomachs were used as sacks and also drinking vessels, and the stomachs contain something called rennet, which
fascinating science.
which is a coagulant. They didn't know it at the time, but it was turning the milk into curds and whey. So you were getting, it was causing the milk to turn into basically cheese, and turning it into a solid. And the solid is what was capturing all of those nutrients, all of that good stuff. They would make like these drinking vessels out of the stomach lining. And imagine you've got whatever type of milk on the back of the whatever animal it is that you're riding or that's carrying all the cargo, and it's bouncing around in the hot sun and
kind of churning, I guess you call it, natural churning.
So then they open the vessel and voila, it is basically
solidified,
cheese.
right?
Yeah, some brave guy tastes it and it's like, oh my god, I have so much more energy now.
Right, and they're like realizing that can be food.
And I'm growing, I'm putting on good weight. Yeah.
Now, do you think, Rob, that they realized that it probably didn't taste so good without the salt, but did they realize how long they could keep it just being more solid? You know what I mean? Versus just milk. Milk goes bad so fast because it's so liquid.
Yeah.
Wonder how long it took for them to realize how long they could keep it.
I think that for a long time it just would have been the freshest of the fresh.
Yeah.
And it would have probably been consumed within a day or two.
Yep.
And I mean, you're not going to die from eating sour or bad tasting cheese.
True.
If it's just gone bad.
Good point.
I think the nutrient part of it, getting that was more important. When I watch these shows that take place in the past, I wonder about the food and how awful it must have been.
Yeah, compared to now, right? Like mutton back then is probably not good as mutton now, but not never good. But cheese back then probably wasn't as crazy good as some of the ones we have now.
One of the cheeses.
It was nutritious.
One of the early cheeses that is on record as still being today pretty close to what it was a couple thousand years ago is Pecorino Romano.
Really?
And
so that was one of the earliest.
It's one of the earlier
recorded
ones. And it was one that went out with Roman legionnaires as they were out conquering all of Europe and really beyond Europe and building their empire, because it didn't need refrigeration because it was so hard, but it's so salty. I can't even eat it on its own. I mean, I can have it kind of grated onto veggies or pasta or something, but back in the day, that was just food for soldiers.
Because I mean, with the proteins and stuff found in cheese, aren't some cheeses considered like an alternative to meat? Yeah. Right? Because then meat could spoil. They didn't keep that as much. So cheese was, going with the Romans, right? And everything.
Going way back, and then with the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then in the Middle Ages with the monks in the monasteries.
Oh, right.
And of course, for religious reasons, they had eating restrictions and they couldn't eat meat on certain days, or just meat was more rare to come by. I mean, still to this day, in many parts of the world, it's only on special occasions that people get to eat goat or whatever meat. But
yet the milk of the goat is there every day of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah, so how do you capture that? And that is cheese.
That's a very, very valuable commodity. Yeah. So some of the things that milk gives you are lots of vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, specifically D, obviously. Milk has a lot of D. Do all the milks have D? I know, of course, cow milk, we know, vitamin D milk. Yep. Right, but D is good. And so all of them.
And vitamin D is basically the milk fat.
Okay. Very good.
Which is a good thing.
Again, which is a good thing. It's a good fat then.
Protein, calcium.
Right. Calcium for the teeth, for the bones.
Carbohydrates, that's the lactose, and that's a lot of energy. And then they call, so what I've done here too, just for our notes, but I'll say them to you watching, is the plates that we made have 3 different types of milk, okay? Right. So we talk about this a lot, and I want to start going through the plate as we go back and forth with the health information. But your plate has 4 cheeses, and we've got a goat cheese.
That'll be the whitest one on your plate. White with kind of a grayish rind on that. A grayish rind. But that'll be the goat.
Goat cheese, that's called Garocha. We have a sheep's milk cheese, which is the hardest and the most aged of all the cheeses.
Very orangey in color. Very
and it's got little crystals in it. You'll see. That's called Euphoria. So we've got 2 cow's milk cheeses. One is firmer, and it even has a punny name, which is Holy Cow.
Hey, did you really mean to say punny name and not a funny name? That's
It's
funny.
punny and funny.
It is
both.
punny and funny. You'll talk about that. Yes. The
If you
Holy
like
Cow.
puns, some people don't like puns.
We
They're
like
too
the puns.
cheesy.
They're cheesy. Yeah, we're super cheesy. Did you see the song? Did you hear the song? How cheesy is that?
Good point.
A holy cow. Got it. I
So-
go good into that.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right.
The next cow's milk cheese is called Brie De Meaux, and that's a classic, and it's from the town of Meaux in the historic region of Brie in Ile-de-France.
Ile-de-France, and I got to go to Ile-de-France, like 45 minutes outside of Paris,
Yeah.
by train, and family owned. They
Yeah.
literally aged the cheeses under their house
Mm.
in their caves.
Yeah, they're always cow's milk. We'll talk more about that. But I made some information on cheese. Information on health is very confusing because one study will say one thing, then the next study comes out and says the opposite, and then you're just like, throw everything away. Let's start over.
Yeah. Which
And
is it?
so you hear a lot of mixed messages on the cheeses, and we kind of touched on this last time that Gina and I spoke on YouTube, and we talked about you can take two cow's milk cheeses, but if one is softer, it has more moisture, which means there's more water.
Water. Yeah.
Which and then you take a really hard, dense cheese like a Parmigiano Reggiano, and you get more fat per ounce because there's more. It's more
packed together.
dense. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's less moisture.
Less liquid. Yeah, because the liquid is the way.
So we
Yeah.
found a study that was done where they took all the different types of milk. We've got goat, sheep, cow, and buffalo.
Okay, in the mix.
In the
top
mix.
4 milks of the world.
The top 4 milks. And by the way, as I started in the intro, I was talking about cheese being made for the first time all over the world, probably on accident. There's been cheese made from yak, camel, reindeer, etc. Moose, on and on and on.
Yeah.
So the major ones we're going to talk about are goat, sheep, cow, and buffalo. And for each cheese, somebody did a study where they took each milk type and made it into a cottage cheese.
Wow. Okay.
And then they
Fun.
tested 4 things.
The nutrition.
The
Okay.
nutrition, yeah. There's protein, lactose, fat content, and solid not fats, they call it.
Non-fats. Okay.
And that just refers to the calcium and vitamins and all that other
you
good
find.
stuff.
Okay.
And just so you know, if you just in cow's milk, for example, it's about 87% water and then 13%
That's it.
other stuff.
That's crazy.
Fat and non-fats.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you have a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
There's only 13% in that gallon. You're saying really is the solids.
And that's why when you see cheese being made, or
Yeah.
you know, if you've ever done it yourself, so much of it gets turned into liquid or whey.
Yeah.
WHEY.
No
Okay.
way.
No way. And so what I did was for each of the 4 major milk types, I ranked where they're at with each of those 4 items.
So overall nutrition in those 4 categories. Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So rather than giving you like a certain amount, like a
Yeah.
number
Sure.
for each one, this is just
which
a ranking.
one ranks number 1 in protein?
Because they
Yeah.
all the milk types have lactose, all of them have fat, all of them have protein,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Okay, so for goat's milk, the first one we'll talk
Okay.
about,
Which is the Garocha, if you want to dive in.
goat's milk ranks 4th in all 4.
So the lowest amount of protein.
It's lowest in
Calcium.
protein. It's lowest in the solid, not fat. So it's lowest in calcium,
Calories. Okay. Yeah.
calcium and vitamins and all the minerals. It's also the lowest in lactose. It has lactose, but it is the lowest. That means it is easiest and best for human
digest.
beings to digest.
For the lactose intolerant.
For
We
lactose
always
intolerant.
recommend goat milk. For this reason, lowest amount of the lactose.
And
Lactic acid.
it's also the lowest in fat. So if this is good fat, remember, but if all you're worried about is fat, then so people
Go for the goat.
go for goat for different reasons.
Yeah.
But those are the benefits and those are the positives and the negatives for goat's milk.
Right. You could argue, yeah. Less nutritious, but less caloric. So
Yes.
which is your definition of nutritious?
Exactly. It gets confusing.
Yeah, right. But that's good to know. So on the goat milk.
But we'll go through the kind of these stats as we taste, and so we should also probably just talk about the cheeses and do a nice back and forth of
for the Garocha.
I'm
loving it today.
What do we like?
It's gamey. Every time I get the goat, I'm very sensitive to that gamey quality of the goat.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what makes goat a goat.
Plus, it's been sitting out. I can see.
It's nice, and I always let it sit out all day. Let your cheese sit out. Number one, we'll tell this in every episode. Please let your cheese sit out before you eat it. But this is very goaty. But now I'm feeling good that I could eat more of it and have less calories if I'm worried about calories. Right?
Yeah, and you're not going to get sick or as sick.
Right.
So for Garocha, just to give a little more background on the cheese, it's from a region called Catalonia. We talked about Catalonia because we did Cava last week.
We did Cava, yeah.
But it's a cheese that's been made in Catalonia, and that is in Spain for forever, for centuries, really.
Centuries. Yeah, and it's Barcelona. That's to know the region area of Spain. It's the Barcelona area.
Barcelona. It's so the cheesemaker is there's a number of cheesemakers that make this type of cheese.
You visited one.
Yeah, I visited one, and he was it was in Barcelona. Rented a car and drove north towards the Pyrenees, and when we got to the foothills of the Pyrenees, we got to his facility. It was Easter Sunday, so they were closed, not making cheese. He was nice enough to show me around anyway. Didn't speak a lick of English, which why would he?
Yeah, exactly. What do we expect?
Funny story. I wrote him an email or something, and I Google translated it.
Did you? Oh yeah.
So I wrote it in English, translated it, and when I got there, he goes, yeah, that email you wrote that you did Google Translate on.
That's good.
He knew enough to know.
You couldn't slip it by.
No.
Nice try.
But anyway, they so lots of producers in the region make the cheese. Not so many anymore. For a long time, the families who made the cheese were not able to move it commercially, and that was when Franco was running the country for many years.
Yeah.
He kind of quelled the regionalism. Yeah, because it was all supposed to be centered in the center of the country, in the capital. And it was, and they have their own culture, their own language. They have, and food and wine is totally a part of culture and region, and so to get rid of that, really, it promotes more of like a nationalistic environment,
which is good. Yeah, share the beauty of something like this, right?
But yeah, you don't want this. You don't want this to go away. When Franco went away in the late 70s, a lot of local cheeses and wines came back, and they started. Luckily, families kept making it for centuries, and they just were making it for themselves. But that's what his family did, and it was re-released in the 80s, and now it's available to us, and that's the only producer that I know of that we can get it.
Super. And that tradition, having a family of goats, I mean, that translates to here too.
Yeah.
So, the Stepladder Creamery people, they have herd of goats and make the cheeses. Now it's trickling out to us here in the neighborhood, here in California. What about how Humboldt Fog that all started?
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So
Laura Chanel.
Humboldt Fog is the most iconic California cheese out there, and the way that whole thing started was the lady who started making that cheese. She and her husband bought a little home, or maybe like a camper up in, and they just parked up in like Arcata or Humboldt County, and there she noticed goats kind of prancing by in her neighbor's yard. She said, "Hey, so can I buy a goat off you?" And the neighbor said,
the goat said, "Sure, I'll go with you."
the neighbor said, "If you can catch one, you can have it." And so she literally went out for I wasn't there, but this is what they say.
Yeah.
She wrestled a goat, brought it home, and and the reason was she wanted to know exactly what her children were eating.
Exactly, drinking, eating, right?
And she knew the health benefits of goat's milk and goat cheese, and so she knew all the vegetation that was on her property, and so she knew what the goats were eating.
Which translates to the milk. And the nutrition of the milk, obviously, it would play a part, And,
I mean, the rest is history. That was 40 years ago.
That's good.
And it's, that's Humboldt Fog, but, so that's
the
goat's milk.
So comments, Rob and I agree, nutty and gamey. And goat's milk are that way. Yeah, Janelle thinks the same. Very gamey, as does Jennifer. We have a question, Rob, and this is more even scientific for me to understand. from Jennifer, does the bacteria, you're sitting something out at room temperature.
Yeah.
Anything at room temperature, typically more bacteria will grow and form.
Yeah.
Now here's my take on that, Jennifer. This is a fermented food. Cheese is fermented. So it's alive anyways, creating bacteria, that sort of thing. Now, if you leave it out
for
a
days.
long time, days at room temperature, it's going to spoil faster, right? It's going to, and it's just like anything else, you leave it out longer, it hastens at room temperature the decomposition, I guess you want to call it, ripening of something. But the benefits, it's the good bacteria that's multiplying in cheese. You've got salt preserving the milk to ward off any of the bad bacteria. Am I saying this as an easy way to say it? In a way, the salt is there to preserve that anyway, so it's warding off the bad.
Salt encourages good, it kills bad.
But the positive microbes and bacteria that are in cheese can flourish at room temperature, giving it a better flavor.
And also, we sometimes talk about the difference between aging and storing. They age in an area where the temperature is higher and there's more humidity, and it's so the bacteria can still do its thing. Once it goes into the fridge, the bacteria is not doing anything.
Right, it's stalled.
It's not. Yeah, nothing's happening.
Yep.
So if you're pulling this out and letting it sit for like an hour before we eat, I don't think nothing harmful is happening.
Not at all
with the bacteria.
Not at all.
But if it sits out for a couple days and you come back, then there might be a little mold on it.
Exactly,
There
the mold grows. And thanks to Kurt. If anybody loves cheese out there, we have Kurt on the line with us today, who is part of Queso Diego, which is San Diego's, San Diego's Cheese Club. So this is a club that is all about making cheese, eating cheese, enjoying cheese, but a lot of home cheesemakers that have made incredible cheeses. So they know so much more about the scientific side of things that are really great. So he too said, leaving it out for those couple hours is a good thing. Longer, it's going to develop some crazy molds.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to happen. But also we know salt kind of inhibits that growth. So it's this balance, which again makes cheese good. That's why it's preserved as it is and can be put in your backpack.
Yeah,
the Romans carried it across.
Ask Fleming when he gets credited for discovering penicillin and letting it sit out. And
yes,
how it happened.
Right. Isn't this how it happens? This is how you learn different great things. One more question from Kay Evans. Hello again. Yes,
hey,
thank
Kay,
you. Welcome back.
Kay.
Yes, she won the cleaver. Would goat cheese change flavor based on where they're raised and what they're eating? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if they're eating rosemary, milk tastes like rosemary, cheese tastes like rosemary.
Yeah.
They're eating, this is the benefits of grass-fed meat. You taste that in the meat, right?
Yep.
Because they've eaten grass. You taste it in the alpine cows, right?
We've had them taste like garlic before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So
garlic,
weird.
I forgot about that. Oniony,
all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes goat's milk cheese that comes from the south of France will taste like herbes de Provence.
Oh, yes, which is a good thing.
Which makes a ton of sense if you think about it.
And that's why all the goats in the Loire Valley are grazing on all that good stuff, right? And that's what makes those cheeses so good and so famous, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good.
So before we go into the other
So goat
cheeses,
number 4 in the overall nutrition range is what you're saying for those 4 categories.
Yeah, I mean, it's elite. So if it depends on what you rank as good or what you're looking for your
best in low-cal.
They're the lowest in lactose, but lowest in fat. Lowest.
Good.
Okay. So we talk sheep's milk next.
Sheep. So again, this was the Euphoria.
This is Euphoria is a Gouda from Holland, and it's got a good amount of age on it. It another punny name.
It is a punny name. There's a lot of punny names in cheese.
Euphoria. Cheese that it's a Gouda, which makes it Dutch, so it's from Holland and the Netherlands. The Gouda.
The Goudas.
But it was made for the U.S. market, because the name wouldn't make sense
anywhere else. Yeah, it doesn't translate. U to U does not translate. But here, people love it.
But if
marketing,
it was made for our market because we have such a sweet tooth here in the United States.
Yeah, it's sweet.
It's very
the
sweet.
Sweetest.
Yeah, it's very caramely and very mild. The age on this one is a year to a year and a half, I would say. But that's one of our most popular cheeses.
But sheep, here's going to be my guess. There's a lot of oils, Rob. Talk about this. What do we got on here?
So sheep is number 1 in protein, number 1 in fat content.
Number 1 in fat and protein, okay.
Number 1 in solid, not fats.
Okay.
So all those minerals, all that good stuff.
All the good
but also the bad stuff. It's number 2 in lactose.
Number 2 in lactose, okay.
It's going to be behind it. You may
Something
already
else,
know what that's going to be.
So highly nutritious, but highly fatty. This is the oils I'm seeing on the...
And so sheep's milk, like goat's milk, will give you a lot of gaminess. The color gets to be... like if you ever look at sheep's milk, it's got a different tint to it. And then the milk especially, like it just gets darker and it gets that kind of yellow or straw hay color. Like big time. Where goat's milk stays white, completely white.
Always white. Yeah, that's so curious. It's so interesting, right? That difference
Reasons
just from the
for
milk
that, too.
itself.
Yeah. I was going to talk about there's so many health benefits to cheese, but I wanted to isolate a couple of them.
The key things that make it good.
Things that I just picked out myself. But one is that cheese prevents osteoporosis, and so
calcium.
Calcium and other minerals and vitamins for the first 30 or so years of your life. Your bones are growing and getting thicker and stronger. And once your bone structure is fully developed, you then start to age. So we can compare this to cheese in that sense.
As you age, you lose moisture.
So I hate to say it, but I mean after 30-ish, your bones really start to thin and you start to age.
Has that happened to you? It hasn't happened to me.
I don't know for a fact. I'm going to say I don't think it has. But so inadequate bone mass contributes to osteoporosis, which is a disease characterized by porous or kind of fragile bone structure.
And so that's instead of taking a calcium pill or a tablet, you could
eat
a little bit more cheese, right?
And
Can I jump in because there was a woman in France that just turned 100-something. And it was so cool to read, what's the secret? And again,
cheese
for her,
and wine.
Yes, it was every day. She said, cheese and wine, still sharp, and I don't know if she was walking, how well her bones were, but to her, some joy was cheese and wine, and she's 100-something.
I think part of health is like doing what makes you feel good, always in moderation, and I am going to touch on that because I have some thoughts about that.
You can't eat a wheel of cheese; that would be bad.
Listen to your body. Everybody is different, so there's no rules that are across the board for everybody because everyone's different. Everyone's body's different. George Burns smoked until he was like 113, whatever age he died.
How does this happen? But then yet
life is just not fair like that.
Yeah, it's not fair. Yeah. Do what makes you happy.
The other one I have here is cheese can have a really positive effect on your dental health, on your teeth.
And that makes sense too with calcium, or is it more?
It's like the acids that so people who eat cheese will produce saliva, obviously from chewing, but the pH level the lower the pH level, the better it is for your
mouth health, your teeth.
Yeah, the less acid there is.
Which makes sense, exactly, to like rub on your teeth to decay your teeth.
It causes decay. So so that's a good thing, less acid. And then also the cheese itself will cover your teeth and protect your teeth.
Yeah, that little coating.
It's a coating for your teeth.
Yeah, a little protection. And this is interesting. Is it inadvertently so? But the French have cheese for dessert. So that's the last thing that you eat. Is it because then it's good for that? It's
perhaps
all the acid you had for dinner, all the whatever you had, you have the cheese at the end, and you're balancing that out. Maybe.
And also a lot of people, of course, have wine with cheese, and wine has acid.
We do. Yes.
Especially, I think red wine can do some tricks on your teeth as well.
Be.
So I had a theory when I read this about dental health. So dental health or dental work is very expensive. So think about this, okay?
Super expensive. Yep.
Okay, the less you're spending on your dental bills.
Okay.
The more money you have in your bank account. The more money you have in your bank account, the more cheese you can buy. The more cheese you buy, the more cheese you eat. It's like the opposite of a vicious cycle. This is like So imagine if you just eat cheese, you have more money, you eat more cheese, you're going to be like Jeff Bezos and your teeth are going to be bright, blinding white.
This is your theory.
This is my theory.
It's like the French paradox. This is the Rob paradox. This is the Robbie.
It makes total sense, right?
It kind of makes sense. I will buy into that. I will be very happily support your theory.
We're going to go with that. I'm going to tell myself that. And I think having happy thoughts like that will contribute to my longer life.
Longer life. Questions that came up just a little just for fun. What to drink with a cheese plate. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm a fan, everyone, and this was from, again, Kay Evans and Janelle. We're all chiming in.
Yeah.
I have a white wine today. I have a Chenin Blanc, but I'm a fan of white. I think bubbly water. Yeah. That's what you've got. Sparkly, Pellegrino, Perrier.
I go neutral always on crackers, bread, beverages. Let's see, I was going to say...
But not plain water is what I think.
Well, sparkling water gives the textural...
Exactly, yeah.
Pairing or sort of contrast. Mm-hmm. But on that note, some of you may be aware, but we're going to feature a wine or a style or a varietal every other Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to always be talking about pairing. But when it comes to choosing beverages, it's whatever you got. Play around.
What do you feel like? Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you're in the mood for.
Yeah, because it's fun to, whatever wine it is or whatever beverage, to taste the cheese. It tastes different depending on what you're drinking. So it's very fun.
There's some other stuff on the plates. I put an apricot jam.
Yes, everyone's loving the apricot jam. Which one was it?
This is the Blenheim. It's
California.
We Love Jam is the producer, and are they in the Bay Area?
They are Bay Area. They get their apricots from Central Valley, and it's delicious. It's pure,
super
not sugary.
Sweet. It's not chunky at all. It's just really smooth. I love that jam so much. I put Marconas on there and some dried fruit. A little, I think it's a basil.
And did you smell this?
It smells so good.
I just want to eat it. This would be good with the goat cheese. If I tell herbs with goat cheese, to me, killer. Anyway.
Everybody has a little chocolate, but save that for a little bit. I'm not sure how that is. I think it's good for your health, too.
Well, that's a whole different episode.
So we've got 2 cow's milk cheeses yet to try.
Holy cow.
I wanted to say one quick thing, though, about...
so sheep. Okay.
We did goat, we did sheep. Yeah, we'll do holy cow next. About moderation. So the is there anyone in the world that does not know that moderation
is the key? Yeah, it's.
And I'm not saying that. I'm not trying.
The whole answer to everything.
The reason I don't come out and go and say I'm saying some revelatory, amazing, groundbreaking thing to say moderation is because everybody knows that. Now what I wanted to say is it's not about moderation.
Okay.
It's about the execution of we don't know to moderate, but how do you actually moderate?
You must tell.
I mean,
you want to know too.
What I'm saying is don't just say it's about moderation. Look at how to moderate. Okay. If somebody has an issue with moderation, then make a real effort to learn how to eat in moderation.
Yeah.
Whatever there's a lot of things Hamburger. You can do to learn how to do that. I mean, and you know this very well, Gina. I had an issue with moderation.
Moderation, yeah. Some person you do.
We used every year for the Christmas party, Gina would have to get an order for me and then an order for the rest of the staff. That's like 20 people.
It's like Rob's coming, he'll finish all the food, which is kind of funny, but then kind of not if you're having trouble moderating.
I had trouble, and I wasn't overweight or anything, but I did feel like crap.
You did eat 10 schnitzels a day, I think, when you were in Austria, but
my average was 2.5.
2.5 schnitzels a day. Okay.
But I guess what I'm saying is if anyone has an issue with moderation with anything, there's lots of tools you can learn. There are if you try making an effort, and if your own effort doesn't work for you, then have the humility is a great answer. And that just means ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. In anything, and I just wanted to throw that in. If you because once you can get that moderation under control, saying that moderation's important doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Do it. Show me.
Yes. Yeah.
But once you do, it's you can get all of the pleasures. Like I used to have
little bits of joy.
A gallon of ice cream. And
I don't need a gallon.
No, I don't need a gallon.
Right. You get as much joy from half a gallon.
So whatever that whole void thing is, whatever your vice is, think about it. Like, maybe you'll learn something about yourself if you have
Why
that.
is it ice cream and cheese are like ultimate comfort foods?
I don't
Is it
know.
the dairy part of it? I mean,
Probably.
honestly, because I see cheese, like in melted cheese. Okay, I looked at like the top 10, lists of comfort foods. And 60% of them, 50 to 60%, all included cheese. Like pizza is one of them. But what makes pizza yummy is a bunch of cheese melted on it, right? A mac and cheese. It's all these, and hamburger with cheese, a cheeseburger. So cheese is a comfort thing, but ice cream too. Is it just the dairy part? Why is
It's very satisfying.
Yeah, it's satisfying. It's comforting.
It's
mentally.
Very, very sad. Yeah, it
and
is.
good. Yeah, mentally.
But I just, I compare it to, if you think of a graph where you go really high and then very low.
Yeah.
But it's better to just be steady.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to have that temporary euphoria. What is that?
Yeah, craziness.
Nice.
Anyway. All right, so on to the cows.
Cow's milk. The holy cow.
Okay. Has holes in it. Are you going to talk about how punny it is, why it's punny?
Holy cow. HOLEY. Cow. I remember on Pee Wee Herman on Saturday mornings. This is back in the 80s. He had on I think it was like the Phil Hartman character walked in. He had holes in his pants, and Pee Wee's like, did you just go to church? Because why are your pants so holy? So the joke here is that there's holes in it, and it is based on. This is from a cheesemaker called Central Coast Creamery, and they're in Paso Robles, and they make a lot of great cheeses. We featured a few on our virtual tasting so far. This is a cow's milk cheese that is based on the classic Swiss Emmental.
Yeah, it's so creamy.
It's really. So the descriptors for flavor, to me, were salted butter and sour cream.
Yes, sour cream, and I could eat a tub of sour cream. There's my moderation out the window.
The holy cow though is it's a California version, and Emmental is a white cheese with the holes in it.
Yeah.
Most of it was redefined and made into big factory versions that were they're called Swiss cheese, but they were really made in the United States for the last 75 years or so. This is a really, really good kind of. It's an imitation. That's not a bad thing. And Emmental means it's from the Emi Valley in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And,
but this one from Paso Robles.
This is from Paso. So I want to go back to our rankings.
Where does the cow fit in? So we know the goat and the sheep. They were kind of at the opposite ends.
Yeah.
It's about the cow.
Yeah, so the only thing that sheep's milk was not number one in was lactose. And that's because cow is number one.
Cow's number one in the lactose.
For lactose. And if you're lactose intolerant, that is a bad thing.
Yeah, that is a bad thing. That's why a lot of people, the milk, because that's the ultimate, the highest concentration of lactose, right? In fresh milk.
Yeah.
As it ages, the lactose tends to go away because the liquid goes away.
So
right?
that's why I said at the beginning to qualify that this is all based off of if you made cottage cheese with the 4 different types of milk. So if you're lactose intolerant and you have a cow's milk cheese that is a triple cream, and you had a cow's milk cheese that was a very hard, let's say Gouda or Parmesan, you're safer with the Gouda or Parmesan.
Yes, because
even though they're both cow's milk, one is more aged and the lactose will go away.
Yeah, that is kind of a myth that needs to be busted. People are like, I can't have cow's milk because it's lactose. I have the lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
But those aged cheeses don't have that in it as much. So yeah, you're kind of missing out on some of those. Really
quickly, another myth I just thought about when you said that is raw milk versus pasteurized milk.
Oh yeah, is one more nutritious?
So when a cheesemaker, a lot of times when a cheesemaker gets milk in the morning before they add the rennet, which is what turns it into curds and whey, they will decide whether or not they're going to pasteurize the milk. And if they're going to be selling or exporting the cheese or aging it less than 60 days, and if it's coming to the United States, it has to be pasteurized. In Europe, they can sell raw milk cheese, but here it's got to be at least 60 days. So if it's so a lot of cheeses are pasteurized first thing. It's the first thing they do. When a cheesemaker is pasteurizing milk, they're heating it up to a certain temperature, and it's killing off harmful bacteria, but it also kills off a lot of the good stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly. This is what's it's a paradox. Yeah.
So I mean, it's you're just like we were saying. It's like you're killing some good stuff, but you're also killing bad stuff.
So it's a balance.
It's a balance.
Yes.
But it's it's the safer way to go.
Yeah.
We tend to err on the safer side here.
Exactly.
In regard to our cheese, that's okay.
But if you get a chance to try the raw milk ones over there, give it a go.
I was gonna say something about when in the shop we have a lot of people come in and questions about pregnant women. Their doctors will say, oh, you can't have soft cheese, you can't have
and that goes across the board.
Cheese or whatever.
Different doctors have different opinions.
They all say different things.
Yes, exactly. It's really tricky.
I think what they're really trying to say, what they want to say is you can't have raw milk cheese. That's my
that would be better advice, I think, than the soft versus hard versus this. Stay away from the raw, just because there are those natural free-form ones that, right? Exactly.
Well, but here's the thing: any raw milk cheese that's in the United States,
has aged more than 60 days, those are gone.
So it's gone. So we've already done the work for you. So I don't think you have to worry too much. I would never say to do anything against your doctor's orders, but it's true if you have a don't go to a guy selling cheese in front of his house.
Anybody's gonna do that?
I mean, if they're making it with raw milk, just to be safe. Well,
just to be safe, yes.
But in Europe, if an American goes and is not used to eating raw milk, fresh raw milk cheese,
you're not used to this.
Yeah, then be careful with what you have. But here, anything that's young, anything that's fresh is going to be pasteurized.
Super safe.
And it's very, very safe.
Very safe. Really quick, because Kurt, again, from Queso Diego and our friend, he's a cheesemaker, so knows a lot about that too, that the longer a cheese is fermented, the less lactose it has. So it goes back to that aging thing that we're talking about. So again, go for the aged cheeses if you have a worry about lactose. And that hard cheeses are often washed because that washing reduces the lactose and the acids. Everything, from that technique of washing does that as well.
Washing the curd or washing the rind?
Hard cheeses are washed. Let's say, Kurt, if you can answer, on washing the curd or washing the rind, because there's two techniques.
Yeah,
you can wash
I think
curd.
he probably is talking about washing.
Yeah, washing the curd.
The curd is my guess.
Because that's at its infant state.
And that's you can break cheese down into so many different styles, and it does get it gets a little confusing. But there are certain styles of cheeses that are called washed curd cheeses, and that includes Goudas, and it takes some acidity away, and it makes for a milder or sweeter cheese.
Exactly. Yes, exactly that. So there's a reason that they wash for many reasons. Acid and flavor. On the rennet, there was a question about from Robert of the different rennets, and does it impart different flavors? And for the most part, Robert, no. I mean, there are vegetarian rennets, there's microbial rennets, there's animal stomach lining rennets. The only one that I taste it every time that does impart a different flavor to me is the Portuguese, cardoon, the thistle rennet. So if you get any Portuguese cheese, you guys, we don't have any at the moment. It's very hard to get. We're going to get more soon. Try a Portuguese cheese. Their tradition is to use thistle rennet. Rob, do you agree? You can taste that imparts a different flavor. Where all the others, I cannot tell if it's a vegetarian rennet versus an animal rennet typically.
We don't get them in all the time. I mean, if they're available, we will order them. But they even have a funkier texture to them.
Yeah, there's something completely different about the way it reacts.
A lot of times there's sheep's milk or goat's milk, but usually sheep's milk. And a lot of them are made in Portugal, or there's a region in Spain that borders Portugal called Extremadura. And they're a lot of times these little rounds. They're really, really funky. In fact, you can sometimes find these. If they're not at Venissimo, you can find them at the Portuguese Hall. Has a little store, and they have a lot of Portuguese cheeses, so you can find them there. Azeitão. They're the ones where if you're ever in Lisbon, and you go to a restaurant, a lot of times they'll put a cheese out on the table and it's wrapped in plastic. I learned this. If you unwrap it and you start eating it, you pay for it. It ends up on the bill.
Well, yes.
Well,
what did you think?
I don't have that kind of self-control. At least I didn't back then.
Moderation.
There was no moderation back then, Gina. But they have this like vegetal artichoke-y, really, really unique flavor to them, and a unique texture as well. They're just really, really interesting cheeses. And by the way, the holy cow that you just ate, that was vegetarian rennet.
Oh, so yeah. And who would you? Emmental, its
would
cousin
be animal.
Is animal.
Yeah.
And that's not what changes the flavor. It's the aging. It's the process that it's made. That's what really, really, really changes the flavor. Right?
And there's no, as far as I know, you can, because there are lots of mixed milk cheeses, you can use, say, calf rennet to coagulate goat's milk or sheep's milk. And I know so much of cheese is trial and error. Kurt will tell you that. I mean, it's just playing around, and so many from all the stories I've heard from cheesemakers around the world, so many cheeses have been discovered on accident, just happy accidents.
This is good.
And I was like, I put this cheese in the aging room, and there was a drip in the ceiling, and the next day
it's delicious.
Yeah, I had my assistant taste it, and he survived.
It's good. And just to clarify, everyone, washed curd.
That's what I figured.
Curd, yeah, which makes sense. Thank you, Kurt. On the washed question. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you soon, Kurt, when we get back to normal.
Yes, exactly. I want to go to Brie De Meaux. I'm dying here.
Brie De Meaux. Go ahead and dig in. So the number 4 is Brie De Meaux, and that is from the town of Meaux in Brie, and it's got a little rind on there. Please eat the rind, and that's good stuff. That's good mold.
A bloomy rind.
It's a bloomy, moldy rind.
It is mold. I love that cheese is the only food that mold is okay.
Yeah.
Mold is good. Scrape it away. No big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think how often we have to shave the cheeses. We call it shaving. If they develop a little mold on the base, on the paste. And it's completely natural. It's completely fine and good. That's what makes this fermented, beautiful product so good.
This is an absolute classic.
This
now,
is so good.
This one is so because it's under 2 months, they make 2 versions of this. They make a raw milk version that will stay in Europe, and you can find it at the markets in Paris and other cities. And then they make a pasteurized version that comes to us. So this is a pasteurized version. It's still phenomenal. It's still a great cheese. It is, as Gino was saying, I mean, this is the real deal. There's just a handful of Bries that come from that little region.
Yeah.
And
this is one of them. I love it.
Can take on that name. There's one from a town called Melun. This is from a town called Meaux. There's one from a place called Coulommiers.
Oh yeah.
They're but they all are cow's milk. They're of course softer. So because it's softer, it's going to have
more lactose, right?
Than say the holy cow.
Yeah. But lactose on its own, if you can tolerate it, this is a good thing.
Yeah. Exactly. And to me, it's a little funkier. It's got a little bit of that, like, especially if you let it sit out, mushroomy, earthy.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
It's really great.
I'm gonna destroy that piece.
Yeah, dig in. You haven't eaten anything.
No, I'm waiting.
Oh, you're so polite. So polite.
Trust me.
The rest will be demolished.
So we didn't have any buffalo, but we should just mention
touch
buffalo.
on the buffalo, because buffalo mozzarella, obviously the most famous buffalo milk cheese. Yeah.
Buffalo comes in second for protein, second in fat content, second in solid, not fats, and third in lactose.
Third in lactose. Okay, so just after the sheep.
So, of course, the most common buffalo milk cheese is mozzarella di bufala, and that cheese has a lot of moisture in it.
Yeah.
It is a fresh cheese. They all come from the same place, and they must be made with water buffalo milk.
Yep.
But there are some aged buffalo milk cheeses.
Blue di bufala.
There's a buffalo blue. There's a few of them.
Yeah.
But we don't. We didn't have any today. I mean, so that tells you.
Yeah, they're very rare.
They're rare, and the reason we see more cow's milk than anything is because cows produce the most milk of any of the animals. But buffalo produce very little milk, and there's just not a lot of buffalo milk production that's going into cheese making.
No.
There's as far as I know, one one farm in Northern California.
Yeah, and that's struggling. It's hard. It's
The
just
farm
that they
is
don't
struggling.
produce enough milk to make the cheese.
And
yeah.
they sell
I know.
they sell milk to local cheesemakers, and they just do what they can with it. A lot of it goes to markets, just the weekly markets up there, and then there's of course most of the buffalo milk production is in Campania in southern Italy. That's where 99% of it is. That's where mozzarella comes from, of course. But we get some buffalo milk cheeses from Spain.
Oh yeah, that's true.
From Catalonia.
We do.
We get some from Lombardy, and other than that, you just don't see a whole heck of a lot of it. But it's good stuff.
Yeah,
if you can find it.
For sure. Wouldn't this be fun just to do an all buffalo plate sometime?
Yeah.
Yes, and also, if we could get away with it, to do with queso, you have to join Queso Diego. A thing came up is that people would love to try the homemade cheeses, and you know what? The time that I used to be able to taste it was at the fair when they would have a competition.
Yeah, and there's no fair this year.
There's no fair this year, so maybe next year. But I'm going to tell you, over the years, home cheesemakers, wow,
Yeah.
I'm in awe. I'm in awe of anybody that makes cheese.
We got to judge some of those.
Right, and it's so good. So doing all homemade cheeses would be delicious. All buffalo, of course, would be delicious. Just to taste from something really aged to something
We should give
fresh.
a shout out to G at Curds and Wine too, who sells winemaking. In fact, this is a.
Oh yes, I made wine there. If you get the chance, of course, I'm not sure when she's going to be opening back up, so I don't want to misspeak. But Curds and Wine's a place you can go and make wine.
And
I've done it every year.
cheese
for
making
years.
supplies.
And buy any cheese making supply you need. You need rennet, check with G. You need any of that, those supplies,
Cheesecloth
definitely
or-
get it. Yeah, it's really super. But wine, cheese, and then for the beer aficionados, the people that like to make their own beer, which I know there are some on here too, good place to go. Good place to go.
Yeah.
Everything about it. But nutrition-wise then, Rob, let's just synopsize that it's good in moderation, kind of like anything. But I think that the nutritional benefits versus the fat, really that's the reason that people think cheese is the worst is only for the fat part of it, right? But
Yeah, they're only looking at one
not
part
looking
of
at all the other
the
parts
data.
of cheese that can be good. But of course, you can't, just live on cheese alone.
I mean,
About a little bit every day, but
let's also talk about how eating good food makes you happy.
makes you happy. And then that goes to the mental. We didn't really
Yeah.
touch on that mental part.
Yeah,
of
we
cheese.
we lied.
It brings joy.
it's
It's an
comforting.
endorphin. It's just like a comfort.
And
Yeah.
being in like feeling comforted is a good thing. And it's I mean, having something to look forward to. Good conversation. It's a reason to get together with friends. These are all things that are good for your mental health, especially these days when we're all cooped up.
Exactly.
We look at cheese, because that's what we do, as a way to connect, as a way to build relationships and to
and to share joy, just pleasure.
Exactly.
That's what life is.
That's what life is, and that's what
it's going to be about. Yeah.
That's what the Academy of Cheese is, and that's how it started. It was just a way for us to get together and
share the joy,
share some knowledge, share some joy, hear how you make it very interactive. We when we get together, it's I remember the first time that we started doing the classes. This goes back,
2009.
It was 2009, so 11 years ago. Officially, we were doing events before that, but I remember being so nervous, and I was like, "Gosh, these people are paying money and we need to deliver for what they're purchasing." And I had like a 10-page outline, and I was like, "I got to get all these facts in. They have to learn something," and then I realized 5 minutes in, I just threw the paper down, and I said, "This is just about." This is about just having a fun night out together.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's
enjoying life, celebrating.
There are other, I know there's other places around the country that do similar educational programs around cheese and other things. I mean, wine and beer. And we decided to take on a style that was more casual and more about. There's no right or wrong, to like really try to take all of that intimidation and the scariness out of the whole
just enjoy the pleasure of it all.
Out of the whole experience.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you all for tuning in to Sunday Sessions.
Yeah.
We got really great comments. I hope we answered all the questions. We'll be back 2 weeks.
Yeah. See, too, we don't have a. Do we have a topic?
We don't
Have you
have a
thought
topic
of?
yet.
Okay.
We will work on a topic.
We'll come up with a good topic.
Yeah.
There will always be a cheese plate with it. We're keeping track of the cheeses, so we're gonna try
Always
to do
different.
different ones
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, wacky and wild. Maybe I'll do wacky and wild next time. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
all
come
good.
up with something.
But join in. You don't even have to have cheese. Just join in.
Yeah, join
Wine,
us, have fun.
But
And,
really appreciate it. Venissimo.com for more details. Rob, always a pleasure.
Same.
Everyone out there, thank
Ditto.
you. Cheers. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Always look on the bright side of life.
Monty Python, baby.
Cheers to that.